There are three things that come to your mind when you look at this monitor from Corsair. You know, there's actually four. Number one being, that's big. Number two being, it can bend. And number three being, it's expensive. And number four being my childish self having to insert a that's what she said joke. But this monitor really has a lot packed into it. From 1440p to 240 hertz to 0.03 milliseconds gray to gray. And that's probably the last bit of specs you'll hear out of my mouth. When I review monitors, I review them as a gamer, as a user. Not spec-filled, back-of-the-box mumbo-jumbo that I don't know half what it is, or I don't have anything to test from. If you want those kind of details, you go over to Arting's Ratings, I'm not sure how to say it. Their website is phenomenal for all that stuff. I want to let you know, is it good for us gamers? So let's talk about the elephant in the room first. And I don't mean the size and dimensions of this monitor. I'm talking about with this monitor being able to bend. That's a little scary the first couple times. You're not simply just bending the monitor, as you got this whole bracket here, you got these handles that come out on each side, and then you got these arms on the backside which bend right along with the monitor. So it's plenty safe, but again, I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me nervous. But is being able to bend and adjust the curve of your monitor just a gimmick? Let's talk about the massive size of this 45-inch monitor, and I'll get back to that point. So when we get to actually playing and using this monitor, there is no denying it is absolutely massive. But as you have probably already spotted, I don't even have the monitor sitting on my desk. I had to change my entire setup by putting a bookshelf in the back for the monitor to sit on by itself. So yes, as I've stated multiple times now, yes, the monitor's big, but the footprint is big. And when I started out with the monitor on my desk here, it was way too close. I mean, I was panning the screen left and right. But once I created this nice setup with it back on the bookcase there, it is absolutely perfect. Now, the other thing I had to change up as well for this setup is my sound. Now I'm using the Sound Blaster Katana V2X. I was previously using the Razer soundbar, which was much thicker, which would get in the way with the handle or all of my controls underneath there for the monitor. And this one is just nice and slim, and I'm honestly happy with the change because it's so easy to control, and you got the speakers going up, out, and the subwoofer. It's just a nice slim profile with all your info up here. We're not covering a sound bar, but again, it fit perfectly with this setup. It's going right underneath the monitor. But my gosh, does this sound bar sound amazing. So now that we got how big the monitor is and how much space it takes up out of the way, I want to get back to my other point talking about the bend, the flexibility of it. Is it pointless and gimmicky? And looking at the monitor right now, it is completely flat. As we're gaming right here, and with it being further back like that, again, it's not too massively big. I'm not panning the screen a whole bunch. Yes, you do notice it is bigger for sure, but it's not too bad. So what I want to do now, let me step back here so they don't get me. I'm going to go up here, reach up, and I'm going to get it to the full bend. This is maximum bend. You'll hear that little click right there. And now, as you see, I have the monitor at its full bend capacity here, and I really don't notice much of a difference. Where you're gonna really notice that curve is if it's right in front of you and it's gonna start wrapping around you like a racing sim or something. But again, looking at it like this, I'm not panning the screen. It's nothing bad by any means. I mean, I can sit here and game perfectly fine all day. So back to our question, is being able to flex and bend your monitor just a gimmick? It can go both ways. Depending on your setup, you can really adjust it and bend it. With it being so big, it can really suit you. Or say if you're playing a racing game, you want it to wrap around you. Me personally, I always leave mine pretty much at that halfway mark there, kind of straight, slight bend, nothing dramatic by any means, and that's how I honestly leave it. So I probably could have just went with a regular standard curved monitor. So I think the flex will depend person to person, game to game, setup to setup. So now that the elephant has left the room, let's talk about actually using it. The colors, how does it look? And what you've been seeing on the screen here is a little bit of Fortnite and a whole lot of Destiny. And this is currently in non-HDR mode. Now, as you can see by the OSD down on the bottom right, we are in HDR mode. I activate it in the PC settings and then also in game. And I want you to take a look at this HDR image here for a second, again in Destiny. And now you're looking at that same image, but with HDR off. So as far as HDR, it's nothing new. We've all have probably used it before, but focusing on this monitor being OLED 45 inches here and looking at image to image, one thing you've probably noticed, and go back if you didn't notice it, look down here with my Guardian Super and then the abilities down here with that yellow and green, you'll definitely notice them start to fade out a little bit, and it kind of turns into like, I don't know, what I say dirty colors. I don't mean dirty as in bad, I mean dirty as in kind of just washed out colors. Definitely a lot softer. Me personally, when I game, I like these bright, vibrant, bold colors as we're seeing right here, where everything's just incredibly sharp, bold, and just very crisp. So as far as the HDR on this monitor, I'm not a fan of it, but I'm really not a fan of HDR on any gaming monitor, because just right in front of you, you don't really get that full aspect and appreciation of it. I do use it on all of my LG OLED TVs I have in my house and absolutely love it. But again, HDR on a PC monitor, I just really haven't experienced a good one yet. Now, of course, the performance is going to depend on your PC, your GPU, your game, the settings of your game. And let me tell you what, me, even being more of a story-driven gamer, even though I play a little bit of FPS here and there, some Fortnite, Call of Duty, Halo and stuff, Destiny, okay, I play quite a few FPS games, but even with me not sitting back here thinking I'm a pro gamer, I do appreciate and I can still tell the difference of a refresh rate on a screen. Again, my LG OLED TVs, they are 120 Hertz as well. I just can't use anything lower. It messes with my eyes and honestly makes me nauseous. I know, I probably sound like a snob, but many of you will agree with me, once you use it, you just can't go back. And just looking at this UFO test right here, this 60 Hertz, super blurry. Up in here into the 120, it's still pretty blurry. Getting up here into this 240 and OLED, butter smooth. Now, one thing that is not butter smooth is the text. Now, when we take a closer look at the text here, again, not a very fair test, so you're going from my screen into the camera, then out to your screen, but I just want to explain it to you. Looking at the white text on a black background, it is definitely not the best, and that's usually the case all across the board, but again, the text is just not vibrant and very crisp edge to edge. Now, when we come over here and we look at some white text or white background with black text, it is definitely a lot more crisp and a lot more pronounced, but again, it still has like that edge right where it peaks up, just slightly blurry, and you're almost trying to focus constantly. Now, the blurry text issue is not a monitor-specific issue, that's an OLED issue. It's known across the board, TVs, monitors, or anything. And I will tell you, whenever you scooch further back, especially on TVs, you don't notice it as much, obviously because you're not close up on it. But again, with this bigger monitor, if it was sitting right here on my desk, it is noticeable and it is just bad. Again, it's hurting my eyes. So when I scooched it back, it all just came together, meshed together a whole lot more. That goes for the text, the curve, everything just molded together so much better when I scooched it back. And talking more about it being OLED, and again, using it, we're looking at the black screen here, and as you can see, it is black as black. I mean, OLED blacks are just, once you experience them, it's again one of those things that you're just not gonna be able to go back. And when you look at the colors, they all pop. You can see each different color, and I'm only in standard mode here. I haven't dabbled with any of my color settings or anything, and it is so vibrant and rich. So now that we discussed our questions about this monitor, is it worth $2,000? $2,000. That's pretty expensive. It's more expensive than a 4K 120 Hz OLED TV. But can you bend your TV?